In the winter of 1692, fear swept through a small Puritan village in colonial Massachusetts. Neighbors turned against neighbors. Friends accused friends. And a terrifying word echoed through the town. Witch. Within just a few months, more than 200 people would be accused of practicing witchcraft. 19 innocent men and women would be executed. Several others would die in prison. This dark chapter in American history became known as the Salem witch trials. But how did an entire community come to believe that witches were hiding among them? And how did fear spiral so far out of control? To understand the Salem witch trials, we need to travel back to the rigid, deeply religious world of 17th century New England. In the late 1600s, the people of Massachusetts were mostly Puritans. Puritans believed God had chosen their community to create a perfect Christian society. Strict religious rules governed their lives. Church attendance was mandatory. Entertainment was limited. And people believed deeply in the existence of the devil. To Puritans, the devil was constantly trying to corrupt their society. They believed witches were people who had made a pact with Satan and gained supernatural powers. This belief was not unusual at the time. Across Europe and colonial America, thousands of people had already been accused and executed for witchcraft. So, when strange events began happening in Salem village, many residents quickly assumed something supernatural was at work. The Salem witch trials began in January 1692. Two young girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, began behaving strangely. They screamed, threw objects, and claimed they were being pinched and bitten by invisible spirits. Doctors examined the girls but could not find a physical cause. Finally, one doctor suggested the unthinkable. He believed the girls were suffering from witchcraft. Soon, other girls in the village began showing similar symptoms. They twisted their bodies, cried out in pain, and claimed unseen forces were attacking them. The girls insisted that witches in the community were tormenting them. The village erupted in fear. Under pressure from adults, the girls began naming people they believed were witches. The first three accused were unlikely suspects. One was Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean who worked for Reverend Samuel Parris. Another was Sarah Good, a homeless beggar. The third was Sarah Osborne, a woman who had caused controversy by remarrying. These women were already outsiders in the community. During questioning, Tituba eventually confessed to practicing witchcraft. But she did something else that shocked the village. She claimed there were many more witches in Salem. Her confession fueled panic. If one witch existed, many others might be hiding in the village. After the first accusations, fear spread rapidly. More and more people were accused. The accused came from every part of society. Farmers, church members, even respected community leaders. Once someone was accused, defending themselves was extremely difficult. The court accepted spectral evidence. This meant a person could be convicted if someone claimed to see their spirit harming them in a vision or dream, even if the accused person was physically somewhere else. The courtroom often became chaotic. The accusing girls screamed and collapsed whenever the accused looked at them. Judges believed these reactions proved the presence of witchcraft. Soon, jails filled with accused witches. In June 1692, the first person was executed. Her name was Bridget Bishop. She was found guilty of witchcraft and hanged. After that, the executions continued. Over the next several months, 19 people were hanged. One man, Giles Corey, refused to enter a plea. As punishment, he was pressed beneath heavy stones until he died. Many others died in prison before they could even face trial. The hysteria had reached its peak. But eventually, people began to question what was happening. Some accused individuals were well-respected church members. Others were wealthy and influential. Even the wife of a colonial governor was accused. Suddenly, the accusations seemed less believable. Ministers and leaders began speaking out against the use of spectral evidence. One prominent minister, Increase Mather, warned that it was better for 10 suspected witches to escape than for one innocent person to be condemned. Public opinion slowly began to shift. In October 1692, the governor of Massachusetts, William Phips, took action. He dissolved the special court that had been handling the witch trials. A new court was formed. This court no longer accepts spectral evidence. Without that evidence, most accusations quickly fell apart. Prisoners were gradually released. By early 1693, the Salem witch trials were over. But the damage had already been done. In the years that followed, many people involved in the trials expressed deep regret. Some jurors publicly apologized. One of the accusers later admitted her actions had been influenced by fear and pressure. The Massachusetts government eventually declared the trials unlawful. In 1711, the colony passed a law restoring the rights and reputations of many of the accused. Financial compensation was provided to some victims' families. But no apology could undo the tragic loss of life. Today, the Salem witch trials remain one of the most famous examples of mass hysteria in history. They show how fear, suspicion, and misinformation can spiral out of control. They also remind us of the dangers of abandoning evidence and fairness in the justice system. More than 3 centuries later, the story of Salem still serves as a warning. When fear replaces reason, when accusations replace proof, and when communities turn against each other, injustice can happen to anyone. The tragedy of Salem reminds us why truth, evidence, and compassion must always guide justice.